Tor de Geants 2024. This is the Trail to Tor. Thanks for joining.
I'm Gail Reynolds, a professional ultra trail mountain runner.
I am obsessed with this race. I'm not entirely sure why, but I've got a pretty good idea. And I'm gonna explain my history here and what inspires me about this race. This is a race I'll be attempting for the 6th time.
I've had my best races here and some of my most devastating lows of any race I've ever completed. The Tor is a non-stop 350-kilometer mountain race with 25,000 meters of climbing and descending. How much is 25,000 meters? Well, the Burj Khalifa is 828 meters, so you got to climb that 30 times. Mount Everest is just over 8,800 meters. You got to do that 3 times, roughly. There are 43 refreshment points, 7 life bases. Completion rate is around 60%, although it does drop when it's rough weather. There are 25 mountain passes, over 2,000 meters long. My first experience at the Tor 2017, it was hard to find information about the Tor. It just really didn't exist. The website was junk. Couldn't even figure out if this was a nonstop race. I had no idea what to expect, how to train. Training at the time for 100-milers was still in its infancy, and this was a whole new level. The only thing I could find was one English race report by Nicodemus de la Rosa, who had completed the race himself, and that was all the information I had going into this race. I was ready for an experience, and I got one. It was so much experience, like a flying drop kick of experience straight to the forehead. Kapow! When people talked that they had hallucinations in ultras, I really didn't know if they believed it. I just thought they were trying to sound cool, but I'd never experienced them before. But in the Tor, I came face to face with my very first full mental breakdown. It was dusk the 3rd night, and I lost it. I had no idea where I was and what I was doing. So I started to build a shelter with all these rocks because it was dusk, night was coming, it was getting cold. We were high up in the mountains, and I just started building the shelter. I had no idea what I was doing. It's like, this is really nice up here, but what am I doing up here? I don't have that much clothes, that much food. This is weird. I'm on an expedition. I get dropped off here. Is this a survival mission? I had no idea what I was doing until an Italian runner came along, pointed to his race bib, pointed to my race bib, and then pointed in the direction to go. And now I'm just like questioning what is going on. Oh, I'm in a race, right? Okay, let's follow this line. Wait, who makes that line? What is a line? What is a race? What is life? What's the purpose of life? The closest thing I can think about to this experience that I had when I had a full mental breakdown where you kind of come to, and then that's when I started building the shelter, is a concussion. Like I had a pretty severe concussion in ice hockey once. And the next thing I knew, I was just on the bench. And I didn't know how I got there. I didn't know what was going on. So I think a concussion is the closest thing I can associate with this feeling. I did finish. It was tough. It was ridiculous. I thought I'm never going to do anything like this again. I just need to finish this one, get under my belt. I'm going to hang up my trail shoes for good. I'm walking away. I'll go find another challenge. This is ridiculous. And I did get my top 10 that I was looking for. It came in 7th with, I think, just over 84 hours. But the weirdest thing happened after my face swelled up the next day. I couldn't walk. I didn't know I could do so much self-inflicted damage through just running. And then as the days passed, I kept thinking about all the different little tiny things I could improve upon. There were so many things that I did wrong, I could make better. As the days went on and I started to heal a little bit, all I could think about were the little tiny things I could improve upon. Everything from nutrition, sleeping, race strategy, could improve it all. And now I'm like, maybe I should come back here.
So I was back again for 2018, round 2, and I knew what was coming this time. So I had revamped everything, and I was excited to try all my new strategies out. My big goal for this race was a top 5 finish, and that would have been a dream come true, just top 5 at the Tor de Geants, legendary race. De facto 200-miler championships. And in this race, I actually overachieved more than any other race I've ever been in. Kind of where I measure it, like where my fitness was experience, I way overachieved. And I came into one of the last Refugio Frazzati, and I sat down and I said 2nd place, so I'm so happy with where I am, and I'm just thinking about finishing and surviving, and that's about it. So I'm in there, I'm trying to refuel. There's probably 20K to the finish line, and the 1st place guy, my soon-to-be mortal enemy, Frankie Cole, was at one point 6 hours ahead of me, so I wasn't even thinking about it. But the guys at the aid station said, hey, Frankie Cole is getting close to the coal. He's only 30 minutes away and he is cooked. And the only thing I could think of was, well, I'm ridiculously cooked myself. So, if everyone's cooked, then it's all equal, it's all relative. So I started to go again and I went hard right until the finish line. And I narrowed that 6-hour gap down to about 15 minutes. So I chased him for so long, I was in a lot of pain, but I was like, whoa, this is awesome. 2nd place at the Tor de Geants, unbelievable. I really exceeded my expectations. I'm coming back for more. I'm coming back next year. It's now 2019. I've had 2 cracks at this Tor de Géant. I think I'm an expert. So I've honed again all the different aspects of racing these 200 milers, especially the edges of what's out there. It's sleep deprivation and trying to deal with it, nutrition when your stomach can go completely off like 5 times, and all the aspects in between. And the whole year I was just focused on catching Frankie Cole, my now mortal enemy. To improve my training, living in London at the time, it was pretty difficult. So to improve my training, we actually went out to Aosta Valley 3 weeks beforehand, so I could actually run in some mountains, getting ready, acclimatize a little bit, getting ready for the race. Here we go. Mountains, everything's lining up perfectly. And that 2019 year was a snowy year. It was extremely cold. We had a blizzard on the very first col. And then by cone, half the lead field is dropping out. And I came in behind Frankie Cole. I was probably 8th place or so. But I saw Frankie Cole walking around, and later it was explained to me, probably lost a little bit of translation, his eyeballs froze. Coming into Gressenay, a little bit further than halfway, I noticed that I had to take a lot of breathing breaks. I didn't know what that was. It's like, I don't think I'm out of shape. I had great training, but I'd be climbing cols and then I just couldn't get enough air in and I had to stop. And a little bit of wheezing was happening. This is now the second night. And I was like, just ignore it. Running downhill was fine because the air dependency wasn't very high. But on any climb, started to wheeze, and it was getting worse and worse. So Gressenay got in there, kind of ignoring my breathing problems, and they told me Oliviero Bassatelli, which at the time I just called him Olivio Bolivio, was only 30 minutes ahead, and I was like, this is perfect. I've got him where I want him. He was leading the race. I was in 2nd place. I thought, this is it. This is my time to turn on the jets and right to the finish line, and I can do it. Another issue I was dealing with during this race was actually having a really hard time of refocusing my mental energies because I had been so focused, dialed in on just taking down Franco. Now Franco's out of the race. And so what am I doing here? You know, I'm just here to take down Franco. I wasn't really here to race anyone else. But now it was me and Olivio Bolivio, and we are racing to the finish line. We start to go up the first col after Gressenay, and the breathing has gotten significantly worse. It feels like I'm breathing through a straw, and I can't do anything now. So I'm just jellyfishing it because of, this time, not because of the heat, but because of lack of air. And any uphill was an absolute slog. It was so painful and so slow, it was just devastating. Could run downhill fine, but this just destroyed my race. And this was just a constant awful feeling of going so slow up the hills, and I had the energy, I had the strength, I could do it apart from I couldn't get the breath. So I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't get the air in, which just totally ruined my race. And I think I ended up finishing something like 5 hours behind Oliviero. So it was so devastating and destroying that I was like, oh, I'm done with this. You know, one little thing goes wrong on the Tour and your whole race is done. And of course, one little thing's gonna go wrong because the race is so darn long. And while that was actually good enough for 2nd place, and I should have been really happy with coming in 2nd place, at the time I thought this was my worst race I'd ever run, because the gap between where I thought I could finish and where I actually did, time-wise, was so large. And it was so frustrating. So I destroyed. People like, oh, congratulations. I'm like, oh no, that race was rubbish. So, you know, I wasn't a happy guy. Coming out of COVID, we had a 2-year break where all I could think about was this race, what to improve upon, all the things I was gonna change, and I was gonna push through anything to come in 1st place. And I really messed it up. I'd also brought on a coach during this period to really just push me over the top and get to the next level. Well, it turns out I did push too hard. I went really hard for too long, got incredibly dehydrated, started peeing what looked like Coke, and had just an incredibly painful kidney. So kidneys were hurting so much. So every time I'd step, it would be painful. I was throwing up on the route, and it turned into a big disaster. And if I thought the last edition was bad, this was a whole new low. But I'm still pushing. I got into Cone, the 2nd life base. I think I was just inside the top 20. So I was incredibly disappointed. Got in there, really thought I couldn't go any further. I got into the medical tent because they pulled me in there because they could see I was keeled over in pain. And they said, well, you're not leaving here for 2 hours until your urine gets clear. Just keep drinking water, just keep hydrating. But realistically, I was already done before then. So first DNF, so painful. Like 60 miles in, couldn't have gone worse. So disappointed, I'm quitting this effing sport. And at the end of the day, I was sad for about a month. Now we're getting to 2023, Tor de Géant, round 5. So I'm gonna compile all the mistakes I've made, and this is gonna be the year I've now changed my mindset to, instead of running for place, I'm running for time. You can check out the whole long form race recap video. But really I'll remember this version of the race for hurling an unbelievable amount in the middle of the first night, and also pushing sleep deprivation using some different strategies that I'd honed. But really those two things led me to racing more defensively than offensively. And I think it cost me. It cost me quite a bit in this race. It cost me my target, 70 hours, which I came in 70 and a half or so. And add that to the bank of the things I'm gonna change and improve upon for next time. Well, looking back at my time at the Tor, it has been an absolute journey. I've learned so much, and I think the only thing I can count on is that I'm gonna keep learning, keep suffering. And it is hilarious to think about the things I was trying to, my first round, in 60+ hour racing. It is hilarious thinking the things I was trying to do at the time. My biggest takeaway from all of my time at the Tor is really to be a triatarian. Just you try different things, and I write it down, figure out what works for me. I'll listen to everyone's nutrition, sleep strategies, and I'll either test them, try them, write it down, see what works, keep what works for me, keep iterating on the other things that don't. And really, what does the Tor mean? It's this experience you get to have. And for me, the Tor is one of the only places I get to have one of the greatest mental battles I've ever fought. Because when the second night comes around with the sleep deprivation and the exertion, it is just an unbelievable challenge to just stay focused and keep moving. So the Tor has seen the highest of highs, chasing Frankie Collet for first place way back in my second edition, all the way to the most devastating lows I've ever had in any race, DNFing, and then also the breathing issue I had where it just destroyed my race for chasing Olivia Bolivio. I keep coming back to the Tor because I find this is the pinnacle of competitive endurance racing. It's also a fun place to experiment with things because there's not a lot of research, there's hardly any research, and really I'm the guinea pig and trying different things out, and it kind of feels like you're on the cutting edge of endurance sports and finding out what works and what doesn't. The opportunity to continually improve on things is so fascinating to me. I think that is one of the key components that keeps bringing me back over and over again. Is this the year that all of my experience and all my learnings combined to give me the race performance I've always hoped for at the Tor Geants, and I get my time goal? Well, I guess we'll see, and I'll see you out there at Courmayeur 2024 this summer. Thanks for watching.